The nighttime technique that makes money come in. While you sleep, most people believe that prosperity is solely the result of effort, discipline, and long hours of work. And look, that makes sense, up to a point. But here's a statement that often bothers people. Some people work less, sleep better, and earn more money than those who live exhausted lives. Not because she's smarter or luckier, but because she understood something that almost no one else realizes. Money doesn't just respond to what you do during the day. It responds primarily to the state you're in when you sleep at night. Perhaps you've already tried everything: affirmations, visualizations, prayers, motivational videos, promises made to yourself every Monday. Yet, at the end of the month, the feeling is the same. The money arrives, but it slips through your fingers. And then comes that silent question, usually asked lying in bed, in the dark. Why doesn't it seem to work for me? The curious thing is that the answer isn't in something you've stopped doing, but in something you've been doing without realizing it. There's a specific time of day when your mind becomes extremely powerful and vulnerable at the same time. A moment when the subconscious takes control, registers emotions as truths, and begins to work on its own while you sleep. Most people use this time to reinforce fear, scarcity, and anxiety. Few use it to align with confidence, peace, and provision. And this difference, though invisible, completely changes the financial game. The paradox is simple and profound. The more you try to control everything, the more you block the flow. The more you learn to rest peacefully, the more space you create for opportunities to arise. It seems counterintuitive, I know, but that's exactly why it works. Today, you'll understand why the last few minutes before bed might be sabotaging or unlocking your financial life, and how to use this time to your advantage in a practical, simple, and accessible way. Why do most people never change their financial results, even when doing everything right? Most people wake up every day believing they're on the right track when it comes to money. They work hard, make affirmations, watch motivational videos, and even pray for prosperity. Yet, the result always seems the same, as if they're running very fast but getting nowhere. And here's a curious detail. It's not a lack of effort, nor of faith, much less of intelligence. It's something more silent, almost invisible, that goes unnoticed by most. And honestly, almost no one talks about it clearly. There's a huge difference between being busy and truly thriving. Many people confuse movement with progress, action with alignment. It's like rowing a boat at full strength, but against the current. It's tiring, generates frustration, and at the end of the day, the feeling is that the money tries to arrive, but always escapes. And that's when that nagging question arises, almost whispered before bed. What am I doing wrong? Curiously, the answer isn't in what you do during the day, but in the internal state you carry without realizing it. An outside observer might think it's all a matter of luck or privilege, but that's not quite the case. People with similar circumstances have completely different outcomes. Some progress, others stagnate. And when you investigate further, you notice a recurring emotional pattern, a mental cycle that renews itself daily without asking permission. That's when I tell you, the problem isn't the money. It's the moment you turn off the control. And that moment, curiously, arrives every night. The invisible power of the last few minutes before sleep. Few people realize it, but the last few minutes before sleep are like the gateway to everything that will be built the next day. It is at this moment that the conscious mind begins to let go of the steering wheel, and the subconscious takes control, quietly, without fanfare. While the body relaxes, the deep mind becomes more open, more receptive, almost like an emotional sponge. And here's the detail that changes the game. It's not what the person thinks rationally, but what they feel at that moment that gets recorded. Feelings stick, thoughts pass. When someone goes to bed burdened with worry, overdue bills, and fear of tomorrow, the subconscious mind interprets this as a command. It doesn't question, it doesn't analyze, it simply executes. It's like an extremely efficient employee who works all night creating more of what they were instructed to do. Therefore, it's no exaggeration to say that many people spend 8 hours a night programming exactly the financial life they say they want to avoid. It sounds harsh to hear, I know, but awareness is always the first step to change. Ancient mentors knew this long before science named brain states. They observed patterns, behaviors, and results. People who slept peacefully woke up with clarity, better ideas, and more aligned decisions. Those who slept tensely woke up tired even after a full night's sleep. It wasn't magic, it was cause and effect. And when this logic begins to make sense, an inevitable question arises that prepares the ground for the next step. If this moment is so powerful, how can we use it consciously? The silent conflict between conscious desire and unconscious beliefs. Here's a point that almost no one likes to face. A person can desperately want money, repeat positive phrases all day long, and still remain financially stuck. Why? Because there's an internal conflict happening behind the scenes. The conscious mind craves growth, freedom, and abundance, while the subconscious, shaped by years of experience, repeats old stories about scarcity, fear, and deserving. And, in the end, the one who speaks loudest isn't the one who shouts. It's the one who's in charge. The subconscious doesn't work with logic. It works with emotional identity. If, deep down, a person believes that money is difficult, dangerous, or not for people like me, this belief becomes an invisible filter. Opportunities may appear, but they go unnoticed. Ideas arise, but are quickly discarded. It's as if the mind is saying, "This doesn't fit with who you are." And here's a simple analogy. Trying to get rich without aligning the subconscious is like accelerating a car with the handbrake on. A lot of effort, little progress. Napoleon Hill observed this when studying successful men and women. They didn't just think differently. They felt differently about money. They slept with confidence, not fear. They believed in provision, not survival. And this detail changes everything, because the subconscious learns through emotional repetition, especially when the guard is down. That's exactly why the period between waking and falling asleep becomes the most fertile ground for reprogramming old beliefs and preparing the ground for something new that begins to take shape. Financial blocks created unconsciously every night. There's a curious detail that almost no one notices. Many people create financial blocks precisely when they believe they are resting. They lie down, close their eyes, and their bodies even relax. But their minds go into movie mode. Bills, deadlines, debts, uncertainties. It's as if the day hasn't ended. And without realizing it, the person falls asleep reliving problems that haven't even happened yet. The subconscious registers all of this as a reality under construction, not as a possibility, but as a silent order. Another common block stems from guilt and feelings of unworthiness. Some people even want to prosper, but feel bad for wanting more. They think that seeking abundance is selfishness, or that they don't deserve to grow while others suffer. This internal conflict is subtle, but powerful. When someone goes to sleep feeling guilty for wanting more, the subconscious understands a clear message: better not to receive. And, as always, it obeys faithfully, pushing away opportunities that would require emotional expansion. There's also the blockage of excessive control, that state where a person tries to solve everything alone, even while sleeping. They mentally review every detail of tomorrow, as if they need to ensure everything happens their way. It seems like responsibility, but deep down it's disguised distrust. Anxiety isn't care, it's a lack of commitment. And when someone sleeps in this state, they send a clear message to their own mind: It's not safe to trust. The good news is that if these blockages are created at night, it's precisely at night that they can begin to be undone. The nighttime technique that reprograms the subconscious for abundance. This is where everything really starts to make sense. Prosperous people, even without knowing it, tend to end their day differently. They don't take the day's battles to bed. Before sleeping, they consciously slow down, reduce stimuli, and create a small transition, ritual. It's nothing mystical, it's strategic. When the body understands that there is no threat, the subconscious becomes open, receptive, almost like a blank page. And it is precisely in this state that new programming finds space to enter without resistance. One of the simplest and most underestimated steps is intentional gratitude before bed. Not automatic gratitude, but genuinely felt gratitude. Mentally list small, real things. A roof over your head, a healthy body, a simple meal, someone. Who cares? The brain can't sustain gratitude and scarcity at the same time. It just can't. This exercise changes the emotional state, and with it, changes the information that the subconscious receives as truth. It's not about ignoring problems, it's about not going to sleep feeding them. Another key point is to visualize the following day in a lighthearted way. It's not about controlling outcomes, but about feeling open to good things. Imagine positive messages, productive encounters, unexpected opportunities, all naturally, without desperation. When a person allows themselves to sleep with this feeling of confidence, the subconscious works throughout the night adjusting perception, attention, and choices. And that's when something interesting begins to happen. The person wakes up different, reacts differently, and, little by little, begins to experience different results. But this raises an important question. What happens after they wake up? What changes during the day when the night is well lived? When someone starts sleeping in an aligned way, something curious happens in the first few days. The next day doesn't change immediately on the outside, but it changes on the inside. The person wakes up with less mental weight, less urgency, less internal noise. The same bills exist, the same challenges remain, but the reaction is different. And reaction, as every experienced mentor knows, defines results. Those who react with clarity see opportunities that previously went unnoticed, almost hiding in plain sight. This internal change alters small decisions throughout the day. The way we talk to people, the way we respond to a problem, the courage to make a call that was previously postponed. These are micro-actions, almost imperceptible, but extremely powerful when added together. It's like adjusting a ship's rudder by a few degrees. At first it seems irrelevant, but after a few miles, the destination is completely different. Prosperity rarely arrives as an explosive event. It usually comes as a flow. Napoleon Hill observed that successful people maintained consistency between thought, emotion, and action. It was no use visualizing at night and complaining all day. The nightly ritual opens the way, but it is during the day that the road is built. Talking about money lightly, giving thanks when paying a bill, celebrating small victories, all of this reinforces the new programming. And when this cycle begins to close, an important warning emerges that many people ignore. There are mistakes capable of destroying this entire process in just a few days. The silent errors that sabotage technique and hinder results. The first mistake that usually sabotages everything is desperation disguised as hope. The person may even perform the nightly ritual, but inside they're saying, "This needs to work now. I urgently need money." It seems like faith, but it's not. It's pressure. And pressure communicates lack. When someone tries to use the technique as an emotional bargaining chip, the subconscious receives a confusing message. Instead of confidence, it picks up on urgency. And urgency, as we know, closes more doors than it opens. Another common mistake is inconsistency. Some nights the person does it, others they don't. When they're tired, they skip it. When they're discouraged, they forget. But the subconscious learns through repetition, not occasional intensity. Years of mental patterns aren't replaced in 2 or 3 days. It's like going to the gym once a week and expecting a completely different body. Consistency is the true sign of inner commitment, even when no one is watching. There's also a more subtle mistake: sleeping soundly and waking up complaining about life. You can't align your mind at night and then throw everything out of alignment during the day. The nighttime technique opens the channel, but daily behavior sustains the flow. Always talking about money with a heavy heart, paying bills angrily, repeating everything is difficult are small actions that negate the silent work of the night. And when this becomes clear, a natural question arises that prepares the end of the journey: how to integrate all this in a simple and definitive way. What you do tonight defines what you will experience tomorrow. Now that everything is clear, there's something important that needs to be said honestly. Knowledge without application changes absolutely nothing. You may perfectly understand how your mind works, how your subconscious acts while you sleep, and how prosperity responds to your inner state. But if tonight you repeat the exact same habits as always, tomorrow everything will remain the same. Real change begins when you decide to act differently during the quietest moment of your day. So, let me ask you something straight up. Without beating around the bush, how do you usually sleep? At peace or worried? Confident or anxious? Because it's no exaggeration to say that you are literally creating your financial tomorrow the moment you close your eyes. It's not about money falling from the sky. It's about creating inner space to see, accept, and sustain opportunities when they arise. Prosperity requires emotional preparedness, not just desire. The challenge here is simple, yet powerful. Are you willing to test this for 7 consecutive nights? Without skipping, without doing it out of desperation, without demanding immediate results. Just apply it with confidence. Slow down. Give thanks. Visualize good things. Surrender control. Sleep peacefully. And observe, with curiosity, how your energy, your decisions, and your opportunities begin to change. Because they always change, when you change from within. Now, if this content made sense to you, if at any point you thought it feels like they're talking to me, then do the following. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Here you will continue learning how to align mind, faith, and action to live a more prosperous, light, and conscious life. And tell me in the comments, how will you sleep tonight?